back to vlogging with no light. I've had a lot of problems. Oi, let me tell you something. Hold on, let me put my camera down here so I'm not shaking it all over the place. This halo light, I swear one day, you guys, I'm gonna get really good at this and be really professional about it. But that day is not today, obviously. Hey, I hope you're all doing well. Hold on, let me turn this. What's the problem now? Like, now I have more problems. What? I'm trying to get it to stay where I want it. I don't know. I'm not a very good techie. Hey, Kentucky girl, how are you? Say hi so I know who you are, so I know who's there. I got a big reflection in my glasses too. It's crazy. I'm wearing my old ones. My new ones make me feel like barfing. Hi, world spotting. So you guys, I'm gonna tell you why I'm live. Hi, Janie. Sorry. Hi, Janie. Hi, Denise. Good to see you guys. I'll tell you why I'm doing this live today. It's because, oh, hi, Vicky. Good to see you. I kind of hate that there's a reflection in my eyes, but let me see if I can fix that. No, I can't. You're having a major PC problem. I had computer problems too. So I bought this drive, brand new drive. I bought it at Costco, and I've been putting all my footage for my Vlogmas videos in a folder called Vlogmas Vids. And I put my footage in there from yesterday, and it's really weird. It's like it just disappeared completely. Like, I had it open in the editing program on my laptop, and then I moved the drive over there because you guys know I was having problems last night posting my Vlogmas video, and I had to upload it 3 times because each time there's like different problems. So I figured, well, I better re-render it. So I took the drive and I put it in the other mini laptop, because my big laptop, my editor like doesn't render on it. I don't know, I got a lot of computer problems. So I took it to put it on the mini laptop to render it, and everything went fine, and I posted my video. But then when I went to work on editing my day 12, it was like it was completely gone. I had never seen this happen before. It was just so weird, and I just figured, well, I guess the Lord didn't want me to post that one for some reason. It wasn't meant to be. Oh man, I did it again, you know? Like every time I go live, I forget to mute all sounds. And then I always have Telegram going off. It's so annoying. Well, I don't feel so bad about losing the footage because it doesn't really matter, it's not really a big deal. And then this way I'll do a live instead, and that's cool because I get to talk to you guys. Sorry, I live in the ghetto. There's an emergency. Hi, Nicole. Hey, Nicole. Yeah, I'm live this time so we can really chat. But yeah, it was just so weird that the files just completely disappeared. Anyway, I'm not impressed with Costco's drive at all, and I'm going to return it, and I want my money back. Plus the headset that I bought, I have to return that too because it doesn't even work on the PlayStation. But you guys, I'm so lucky to have Aaron because he is the techie in the family, and I told him I have a problem with my drive, and he was like, I have extra drives. He had like 4 drives, and 3 of them were almost empty. He gave me this empty drive. So thank God, he's always really well prepared. Aaron is very gifted in the technology department. Like seriously, that is not my department, but he's really good at it. What I wanted to talk about in this video was actually the euthanasia issue. Hold on, let me take a hit so I can think. I want to talk about that because, as you know, for my Vlogmas, I've been really laying out my life. I've been on here for 13 years or something, and I never really shared this side of my life. I mean, sometimes you would see me post a bit of the stuff, like, Aaron's in a wheelchair, and I have done a couple of videos where I kind of showed a bit about my life, but I never really like showed you so many aspects of my real life. It's kind of weird. I've been on here for so long, and I've been talking about the news, and you guys see how busy I am, and you can imagine I was doing what I'm doing with Aaron, plus I had my autistic son homeschooled, and my mother had Alzheimer's, and I was going over there 4 times a week to give her a shower, do her laundry, clean up, do her hair, and I would spend like 4 hours at a time, 2, 3, 4 times a week. and somehow I was still doing videos. Can you imagine how much work that was? It would have been so much easier for me to just make videos about being a caregiver and about disability and Alzheimer's. I made a few. I did make videos about autism when my son was younger, especially. Yeah, you remember when my mother had to move to that place and I decorated her apartment. Remember that whole thing? It was like I was really actually I was really enjoying decorating her apartment. Like I really enjoy doing all that caregiving and all that stuff. Like it's just in my nature, but it's really hard to then come home and like read all this news. It takes a lot of time to research it and then put it all together and edit it. And you see like at the end of the day, I do my Vlogmas videos and you see that by dinner time I'm like, ah, so then I would record in the evening and because in the day I've got stuff to do. So you guys can imagine how hard that's been. Thanks, Vicky. Um, yeah, so this is kind of a really cool change for me. And I thought, oh, no one's gonna want to watch this, you know. But in a way, it seems like I should have been talking about disability and caregiving and Alzheimer's and autism. I should have been talking about that the whole time. But the thing is, because as you see, my life, it's taking care of my partner, and then there's all this parenting, which involved homeschooling. I don't have like a job outside in the world. And then I'm also taking care of my mother. So it's all like happening within my home and maybe my mother's. So in a way, like reading and keeping up on all this news and talking to you guys about it was like a kind of escape for me also, you know. So it's not like I don't care what's going on in the world and I didn't get anything out of it. I did, but after a while, especially lately, I just felt like it just got really like it just felt like so much work, you know. Thanks, you guys. You guys have been so sweet, leaving the coolest comments. I appreciate it. But I appreciate like all the comments that you've been leaving me. Wait, I'm gonna turn my volume off because I wanted to read some of those comments and like respond to them. Um, and actually, you guys had been giving me some good tips too, you know. Somebody came up with a great idea for what to do with Aaron's room. Maybe I'm going to get him like some kind of a very, very thin, low drawer or something that I can put on the floor there. Because, yeah, it doesn't happen often. But even if it only happens 3 times a year, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so bad, you know, like what happened in the other video, what I showed you. Yeah, when things get on the floor like that, and it's just a big thing. And then I have to take the tiles out and redo the floor. I just thought nobody wants to see this, seriously. Like my life is just so I'm just working all the time, you know. Who really cares? But I watch other people's disability channels because I relate to it, and some of the things I don't relate to. No, I didn't clean the oven yet. I didn't get to it. But what I did yesterday was I went to my mother's, well, the storage lockers. It's officially, I guess it's my mother's. And I brought some things in there and took some things out. And then I'm giving some to charity, some's in the garbage, you know, this whole like sorting stuff. Because she had a lot of stuff. I don't know if you guys saw the video, um, like selling our family home or losing our family home. Jennifer Hatchett and okay, I'm gonna come back to that. That's what I want to talk about. I just wanted to see like, you know, just wanted to wait for some people to come in. Hi, Holly. Um, yeah, so like I was just doing some like cleanup and I moving some summer clothes there, and you know, it's like my extra closet. And that was my whole day. I ended up taking pictures of things for Marketplace, and it was so much work, but it's like, is it even worth it? I guess it is because I do enjoy it. I feel like anything that you enjoy is worth it because if you're, let's say you're doing something that you really don't like doing, but you're getting paid a lot of money, you're still going to be miserable because it's going against your nature, you know, like money doesn't make up for everything. If you're doing something that you absolutely love and you're not getting paid for it, people do that all the time with their hobbies and stuff. So I feel like if I'm doing things that I love and I am getting paid, it's not a lot of money, but it's not, you know, I'm not doing it for just passing my time. And you know what I'm saying? Like I do get paid to take care of people. I don't make a lot of money, but I also really enjoy caregiving. It's just so easy for me. Um, it's the most chill, and it works super well with my own autism issues because there's no problem with, I don't have to deal with a lot of people. First of all, that would burn me out, and the environment, I don't have to be in an office or a store, or I don't know where I would be. I can't be in noisy places. I can't be sitting at a desk for a long time. I can't be standing for a long time. So it just strikes the right balance for me. Seriously, I feel like I'm very lucky that I can do this. I have a lot on my plate, but I'm very lucky that I can earn my living as a caregiver because it's a perfect fit for me, you know? And Lara is actually working as a caregiver now. She was working in the hospital as a nurse. She's no longer at the hospital. She's doing basically what I'm doing, but for people who are not related to her. And she's getting paid a lot. She gets paid like 50% more than I do. And all she has to do is babysit Nona. Basically, like she just babysits people's grannies. Like they just want her around in case something goes wrong. And she gets paid a lot. And it's very, very easy work. She's always telling me, oh, you should take some hours. Like she's so well connected. Now, if I wanted to, I could ditch Marketplace completely. I could ditch YouTube and I could give all my extra time to doing more caregiving. Hi, doll. I'm live.
Can I have the last muffin?
Yeah, have a muffin. I made it for you. But anyway, there's this balance of, earning a living and taking care of your needs, but also doing what you love. And I like doing Marketplace. It's fun. So I spent all day yesterday doing that. And yeah, it was pretty hard work, but I enjoyed it, right? I took a lot of pictures of things. I cleaned things up. Hi, Janine. And what did I sell this week? I sold 3 sweaters, believe it or not. I sold like, I don't know, 2 or 3 toys in like last week, plus a suitcase. And yeah, the Voldemort one. Wait, Voldemort and the game, and I sold Playmobil. I mean, I'm selling something. I do get something out of it. It's not a whole lot, but anyway, I enjoy it. So, pace yourself, caregivers. Yeah, my next vlog, I'm going to talk a bit about self-care. Pacing yourself. It's important. And it's important to not, like, to do things for you as well. And so for me, doing the Marketplace or whatever else, those little things that I do on the side, that's for me, Okay, so let me see some of your comments. Sorry about that, guys. I'm like incorrigible. Oh my god, so bad. A simple thing like turn off the telegram. I can't remember. Hold on. Wait, Vicky, what's this? Sorry. Outside current events. You guys, though, I follow all the stuff that's going on. I'm on Telegram. I'm watching stuff on Rumble. Believe me, I know. I'm just not talking about it because it's like, you guys see my life. I mean, am I gonna really like? And besides, anyway, I feel like I seriously paid my dues. I was one of the OG truthers, like before there was tons and tons of people doing it. I was doing this back in 2009, and I was on a FM radio in the U.S. For 3 years. I had a radio show called The Truther Girls. That's why I got so many subs on YouTube. I was a radio host, and I put in a lot of time getting all kinds of info out there, and all the stuff that's playing out now. I was talking about this 10 years ago. So I kind of feel like, look, I told you guys, I put the information out there in the first place. That for me, that was the time to wake people up. Before, not after, like now it's kind of, I mean, there are people that are going to wake up through their own miserable experience, unfortunately, and eventually they're going to figure out. And there's other people that like they just absolutely don't want to hear because they just can't psychologically cope with it, or it just goes against their belief system. But as far as, all this corruption and stuff goes, I was talking about this ages ago. I'm an OG, y'all, So am I going to keep talking about it forever? I feel like I sort of like made my contribution, so I want to also talk about other things. Okay, so there was someone here says, I was a caregiver for 29 years. Now I'm the one disabled and being cared for. Kentucky girl. Oh, because of your rib fracture. Well, I hope you get better. I think you're talking about the rib fracture. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like, I'm kind of old, so there's a lot of people, a lot of usernames, so sometimes maybe I might get the info wrong. Oh, no, that wasn't you, that was somebody else. I'm so sorry. That's why I have the Patreon, and I created a chat room in there so that you can join the Patreon for like $1 a month or whatever, and then you can go in the chat. I really want people to use that because that way you can meet each other too. Because what I really want to do, my dream, my vision right now is community. I want to have like proper community here. And so that way you can connect with each other because you can exchange email addresses there privately. Whereas here, how are you going to do that? You leave your Facebook or your email like in full public view online, you know? So just to let you know, if you join my Patreon, you have access to that. Um, I'm just looking at your comments some more, very awkwardly with my finger right here. Oh, no, 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 I don't want to press report. I'm sorry. It's not easy. Oh, no. Oh, God, I hope I didn't report. Probably reported my own admin. It's very awkward. Okay, I'm going to have to... Scary world we live in. I know. It's like, I was talking to Aaron about this last night. It's like, this is really the end game. Like, end times end game. That's what I believe. I cannot even believe I'm living to see it. And it's, what are you sorry for, Janie? Oh, hi, Uncool. Uncool Paranoia. Go check out her channel. Please. Yeah, and I can't even believe, like, I was reading this UN document, and you know, like, because they had this e-government readiness survey. Okay, so they have an e-government readiness program. I did a video about this like 10 years ago, and I was telling you, you guys, they're moving to digital everything. It's going to be complete surveillance, digital ID, digital currency. It's all going to move to that. They're laying it out. They're planning it, and they have different, like, across the world. Not everyone's at the same level. And I was telling you this like 10 years ago. Asian countries and the, you know, Western European, North American, they're very high. They would give them a, here, I was going to talk about disability, but I'll come back to that. They're giving them a e-government readiness index, a score. And so those countries have a very high score, like South Korea, Japan, China, surprise. And also Australia was one of them. Canada was very, very high. So I was like, well, it's a readiness index. So what does this mean? It means that once you get to, once you get to a 1, that's not the end goal. Then you're just ready. So it was really obvious. These documents are there. They're out there. There's nothing, it's not secret. I mean, maybe secret what they're going to, how far they're going to go with it after. But I was following this, and every year I was checking out, like, how is the progress with the readiness index? And it was creeping me out, right? And I was telling you. So I knew that this had something to do, like what we're seeing now, the shift with technology. I knew it had to do with the shift to digital, which is, you're going to lose a lot of your privacy, you know? That they've been planning this for ages. So it was like 20 years of surveys, I think. And then they stopped doing them. And I was like, uh-oh, they stopped surveying. And that year, they did this thing about e-government. They had this e-government readiness, you know, synopsis of where they were at. And they said, we have but 10 short years to achieve our goals. And that was in 2020. So they give themselves until 2030 to achieve their goals, which is whatever they wanted to do with this e-government. They say so that you can access government services online. 2 things. First of all, accessing government services online actually sucks because you have to do all the work that the person in the office used to do for you. And you didn't have all that training, and you don't know what you're doing. And it's a big pain in the butt, you know? But the other thing is, it's not just about you accessing the government. It's about the government accessing you. That's the real thing. And they stopped in 2020. How crazy is that? And they said we have 10 years. Okay, so now we're moving into 2023. So, I mean, you know, there could be delays or who knows what else is coming, but definitely this is going forward like full throttle. And all this talk at these big conferences about their digital currency and programmable digital currency. And now they're going to have like an app that's sort of built in with this, so you can keep track of like your carbon footprint and all that. Yeah, apparently, like, they were having the COP15 in Montreal. And I was like, really? I didn't even know. I was busy cleaning the floor. But yeah, and I can't even believe that, like, Trudeau walks around in public. You'd think he'd be scared. I think there's a lot of people that hate him, but he's just walking around like, that's fine. One of Gunner's friends actually came like face to face with him on a school trip. Still walking around like he's our dear leader. And after all this disappointment. Just looking at your comments. So here's one thing. Speaking of all of this stuff, then this is the issue I wanted to bring up here, which was Canada's, I think they just call it euthanasia. I mean, I don't know if they have a nice euphemism for it. I think they call it made medical assistance in dying. It's kind of creepy, too, when people say, I'm going to get made. It's like, what do you, like, it's like, that's what people say when they join the mafia. It sounds like something good, like, okay, it's not good joining the mafia, but it's like, yo, I'm going to get made, man. I'm going to be a made man. I'm going to get made. It's creepy, eh? Like when you meet your maker and then at the end you get made, you meet your maker. Anyway, wait. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Vicky. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. Exactly. Okay, well, that's exactly it. What Vicky just brought up, I'm just going to tell you the comment here. She said, with what they're giving people on disability to live on, death hurts less than what they offer for the end of life. Okay, so here's the thing. So Canada started saying, well, people who are really suffering, and apparently most of them who wanted it was people with cancer, and some other kind of like serious diseases like Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, that kind of thing. And they were like, please just let me pass on and like help me do it, right? And I can understand that. And you guys, if there's one thing about me politically that I'm really like very strong on, it's liberty. I'm a very strong libertarian. And to really like, I really believe that people should be able to make their own choices for themselves concerning themselves. I don't think they should make, be free to hurt other people or anything like that, obviously. But when it comes to medical and personal freedom and your lifestyle freedom, I may not agree with what they do. It may not be a choice that I would make, but I'm a libertarian. So when people with cancer said that they would prefer to have a big dose of morphine, my opinion is like, well, as a libertarian, I believe that they should be able to do what they want. It's not as a Christian, because I have my own opinions in line with my Christian beliefs, but society isn't Christian. And just like we don't want the Muslims to impose Sharia law on us, I don't believe that we should impose our law on them either, right? Because it's no different. Or we don't want the Jews to impose their Orthodox law on us or whatever. So that's just how I see it, okay? I don't impose my religious beliefs on other people. And so it's between them and God in the end. It's their path. It's between them and God. And I'm a libertarian, absolutely, because I believe that freedom, liberty is very, very important. Because once you lose that, once you start nanny stating and micromanaging, you lose a lot more. It's just not worth it. So I think that if people want to do that, then that should be their prerogative, However, at the time when they were discussing it, I had made a video saying that already back then. And I think it was only brought up in 2015. It was like legalized in 2016. And this was even before it was legalized. I had brought up, here's the problem. Because people are not doing it just because they're sick and they're suffering. They're doing it because A, they feel they're a burden to their family, and B, they don't feel like they have options. So we can't as a society just be like encouraging people to do this and at the same time not giving them options. It's always about, as a society, we have to have the responsibility to give people options so they can make good choices, not be backed into a corner and then be like, well, here's your pill, right? So even way back then, I think before it was even legal, people were already saying that some people were choosing euthanasia because they just felt like they were a burden on their families. There were people who, it's not that they were suffering so much themselves, but they didn't want their family to go through, sorry guys, go through the whole process of watching them die and whatever. There was an enormous social pressure on people that because these are good people and they don't want to be burdening other people. And so they're doing it for other people. And can you imagine though, like, that's just sad. It's sad that people did it for lack of options, you know. There could, I have heard many stories where there's people with medical issues where they can't get treatment here. Now, if they had a lot of money, they could go to another country and get them. And for some reason, these treatments are not available here. It's just not an option. And if it's available, it's not covered, you know. So there's a lot of inequity. So this all factors into this equation. And so at the time, though, it was like, you have cancer, you're really suffering, you're really at the end. But it's kind of weird, though, at the same time, because I'd heard many times from people who work in hospitals that they were already doing that. People who were very sick and were really terminal and at the very end of the road, they did give them a lot of morphine. I was told this. So, like, what was changing here? The nurses were already doing that. And actually, somebody had said to me once that they would do it on the weekend. They'd do it on a Friday, so there'd be less people in the ward on the weekend. But these were people who were like, they're really going to die, like, any minute, any day. The nurses apparently would give them lots of morphine. Anyhow, but so there was this issue of people doing it for the wrong reasons. And they went ahead and legalized it anyway. And I was like, okay, I mean, look, you know, God forbid, but if I had cancer and I was in horrible pain, I've heard some horrible stories about people who have cancer and how they suffer at the end. And maybe you're really suffering so much and you're going to die anyway, and you just want it to be easier. So, like, I can respect that. I'm not standing in their way. The problem was Canada, unlike most other countries that have this, started to broaden and broaden and broaden the criteria. So it quickly went from, I mean, just within a couple of years, from like, you're about to die to, well, you can have it if you're not going to die, but you're suffering a lot. And that had to be like some physical, serious condition. A little while after that, it's like, yeah, that could include mental health issues too. So basically now they have a suicide hotline, and they also have like a system where you can actually just have the government pay for you to commit suicide. I'm sorry, you know, but it seems crazy. It seems really crazy because they, you know, the irony here that our government partnered with Bell Canada, Bell Let's Talk about mental health. And you see all this stuff going around on Facebook about, you know, if you're feeling depressed and you're losing hope, reach out. Like, we care. We're here for you. Reach out. But then it's like, but if that doesn't work, somebody can help you on your way out. You know, that's, to me now, something's really wrong with that. Because I've had really severe depression, like from stress and maybe hormonal or whatever, where I felt really bad. Like, I felt like I couldn't cope. I had a lot of very dark thoughts. I would have never killed myself because I'm Christian, and it was just never something I would have done. But I really suffered, and I could really see how someone who was in such a dark place, you know, sometimes they don't see a way out. And I think it's our duty to help them, and not just to help them kill themselves, you know? That seems really like, that's a lot different than someone who is suffering physically. It's like the last stage of cancer and they're going to die. Now you're actually helping suicidal people kill themselves. Does that make sense? While you're running Bell Let's Talk campaign, doesn't make any sense to me. So it expanded to, you know, if you're suffering in general. And oh yeah, Melanie, yeah, no, they have all these immune therapies now for cancer that it's quite a lot better. I don't want to get off on a huge tangent, but like, for example, lung cancer used to be basically a death sentence, and now I'd seen studies where they had these new immune therapies, the ones that end with MAB, and it increased the survival rate up to like almost 30%. If you had never had chemo. If you had chemo, it was a bit lower. It was like 25%. But I mean, there's all kinds of things, you know. But anyway, so it went from, you're about to die, we're just going to help you so you don't suffer, to, well, you're not going to die, but you know, you have something chronic and you're in a lot of pain, to, well, that could be mental health, to, well, you just don't feel like living, so, you know. So it is definitely a slippery slope, and that's exactly what people thought it would be, and it is becoming a slippery slope. You know, as slippery as we could have ever imagined. There was a guy who had lost his hearing in one ear, and he had had like a mini stroke, and he went to the hospital, and they offered him MAID, and he accepted, or he asked for it, and from coming to the hospital, like a month later, he was dead. So there's another big difference between Canada and other countries, is that in other countries, the doctors are not allowed to offer it to you, whereas here they'll offer it. And you guys know my friend Joel. Some of you may know Joel. I had, this was, oh my gosh, like 10 years ago. Joel was struggling with addiction, and me, being the documentarian that I am, with his permission, started documenting his struggle. And the goal of this was to help people. It's live, Babu. Hi. Babu, my friend. The goal of this was to really help people understand what people are going through with addiction. Because it's easy to look in and be like, gee, you're such a selfish bastard. Why don't you just get your act together? Or, well, why don't you go to treatment? So it kind of showed, or once you get an apartment, it's going to be better. Once you go to treatment, it's going to be better. And it was just like all these things. And Joel would go through cycles where he would get motivated, he'd get help, or he'd clean up, or he'd get treatment, he'd get an apartment, and then he'd like go into the cycle of depression, and it would just all go down. It would just spiral, and then he'd start using again. And a lot of times I took him back in my house. Like, he'd show up in the middle of winter with pneumonia, coughing blood, and I was like, okay, you can stay on my couch. And then eventually I'd get fed up and I'd kick him out. And it just went on. Like, it seemed like nothing was ever going to help him. Well, Joel, it turns out, okay, he had been taking these opiates partly because he had some very, very severe pain that he'd had as long as I'd known him, or almost, not when I met him, but a couple of years later. After being given the runaround for many years and told he just had stomach ulcers, they finally figured out that he had chronic pancreatitis. That's why he was in so much pain. And he was angry too, actually. He really wanted help and he couldn't get it. And he ended up becoming a drug addict. I'm not saying that's the only reason he's a drug addict, but it didn't help. Let's put it that way. I mean, let's say you develop an addiction problem. It's hard to get clean, but it can be done. But if you have something that's causing severe pain like that, it's harder. It's much harder. So he would keep relapsing, Yeah, Lady Liberty. This was before that came into the picture. Well, anyway, when he went to the hospital and they finally figured out what was wrong with him, like when I knew him, I mean, way back, they had finally done like an ultrasound through his stomach, and they said, oh, actually, it's not your stomach. There's something on your pancreas. There's like spots on it. And they started to suspect from that, plus some blood tests, that is pancreatitis. Well, after this whole thing with him going in and out of my place and trying different things to get well, he went back to the hospital at some point. And it was really, really bad. And they said, you have chronic pancreatitis. It's never going to go away. And someday it will kill you. They actually said that to him. And they offered him assisted suicide. And this was years ago. So this must have been, when did I stop making videos with him? Must have been around 2015, I think, at the latest. So this was like as soon as they made it legal, they started offering it to people. And I think at the time when they offered it to him, it wasn't even fully like ready to go. And already, if somebody came in with some kind of serious problem, and it wasn't even terminal. I mean, yeah, it would be terminal eventually, but maybe he could live another 10, he's already been living so many years with it. He's already lived 10 years with it. At least. No, even more. Because he had it even before Gunnar was born. So he's probably had it for like 20 years. But it got worse, So he goes in there for help, and they're basically like, we can't really do anything about it, but if you want this euthanasia cocktail, we can get it to you as soon as it's legal. So that's a big difference between Canada versus like Belgium, Netherlands, and wherever else they have this, is that here they actually kind of promote it. And there was a Paralympic athlete who asked for some kind of a equipment for her house. It was like a stair lift or something. And they didn't give it to her, but they offered her euthanasia. That's so crazy. Because my partner's in a wheelchair. You know, people have disabilities. Doesn't mean that just because you have some kind of physical problem that you want to die. Hold on, let me just see if I can plug in my light here, because I could unplug my drive. So it's really like, it seems like a big free-for-all. Oh, I'm sure they would tell Erin that too. Is that better? Yeah, and she's an athlete. And just because she needs a stair lift, they won't give her the stair lift, but they're offering to give her the death cocktail. Okay, I'm looking at your comment, Dawn. 23-year-old woman with PTSD and MDD? What's that, like a mood disorder or something? Yeah, that's horrible. That's really sad. What a waste. What a waste of life. Yeah, I mean, what kind of message does that give to a disabled person? When they go to their doctor, they're, oh, major depressive disorder. That's too bad, because I think there's treatment for that, but I think some of the effective treatments are like not as promoted. You know, they're still kind of controversial. But I mean, I don't know, maybe in her case, it really couldn't. But I mean, look, you guys, I have chronic relapsing depression. I've had it since I was a teenager. You see me in my videos and you like say I look positive and I look happy. Well, I found a way to manage it. But I do have this problem. And like I said earlier, I've had some times where I was in a very, very dark place. Well, I found out what was causing my depression in my case. It's not everyone else, but since we're on the subject, I found out because of someone that I know who's a medical professional helped me make the connection. Whenever I'd get a virus or anything, especially the flu, I would get horrible, horrible depression. You guys, I've been on here where I said I felt like I was poisoned with sadness, right? Well, it turned out that it was it's sort of like an allergic reaction, inflammation. So when I get sick, I don't always get symptoms, but I produce a lot of interferon, and then I respond to the interferon by like having horrible mood disorder, like extremely depressed. That was one of the things, and then I found something that worked for me, so I'm not too worried about it anymore. But yeah, I think it's really a problem in Canada. This isn't just about helping people with cancer, easing their suffering. And it's not like in other countries. It really seems like they're trying to save money here by helping people just off themselves. And let me tell you how the disabled community feels about it. So there's some disability advocacy groups, and they're saying they don't want this. We're not talking about people who are dying anymore, right? Hi, Space Orbison. We're not talking anymore about people who are like beyond help. We're talking about just disabled people, such as my partner, Aaron. Well, disabled people never asked for this. The reason it got added was there were a couple of disabled people that took it to court and said that they should have the right, because these couple disabled people, and I'm sure there's a few out there, right? They wanted to have the right to have access. And because they stood up for their right and fought for it, our government added basically disability to the list for who can get MAID. And the rest of the disability community, hi Kanga, yeah, we're still live, says we didn't want this. And the problem is that now when people have a disability and they need care and they can't get it, they're offered this instead. I mean, what kind of a message does that send, right? It sends the message that we don't want to help you. We'd prefer that you just died. Frankly, I mean, how else can you take it? And you know, what's really crazy here is another thing is the amount that they give disabled people to live on is there's no province where it's above the poverty line. It's always at or below the poverty line. So somebody like Aaron had an accident, and his accident is not only the spinal cord injury, it's also the right hand is partly paralyzed. He can't, well, he can do this, but he can't like open his hand all the way, and he can't like curl his fingers. He can just use his hand like this, and it's not normal, right? That's why he has the Terminator glove, because he pushes his chair with the back of his hand. So he's got the back injury, he's got this, and he also had a traumatic brain injury. So Aaron's disabled. Like, he cannot hold a job. Plus, you guys, now that you've seen all these vlogs I've been doing, you see how much time in your day disability related stuff takes up. Actually, you probably don't even, because you don't even see all the time that goes into showering and dressing and all this other stuff. All kinds of things. And so take all that, add a traumatic brain injury, and pretty much you're unemployable. Not to say he doesn't have skills. He does. Like I said, he's a great techie, but he's not actually employable, you know? So he's on disability, and it's very low up until like last year or a couple of years ago. They it hadn't even been indexed since the 90s. People on disability in Quebec were getting $950 the same way they were getting $950 20 years before. So it's kind of crazy that Trudeau was giving more money to people on CERB, even students. He's just handing out CERB to students. Why? You know, they could have gone back to work. Then, oh, there's a labor shortage. I remember when we were in Quebec City in 2021, I guess it was. And all the restaurants were telling me there's a labor shortage. They can't find any people to work. And I can't really see any good reason why they'd be paying young, healthy students to stay home. But they were giving them money, and they were giving them more than they give people who are disabled. Aaron's been disabled for like 40 years. And so if you're disabled in Canada, unless you had some private insurance or something from work, or it was a car accident, you're screwed, man. You're going to be on disability. And when you're on disability in Canada, well, in Quebec, you're only allowed to earn an extra $100 a month above that. So he can go out and do a little busking karaoke to earn his $100, and anything over that comes out of your check. So they really keep people poor. And when you're poor, you don't have access to resources. You go and ask for somebody to provide resources to you. It's a huge wait. I mean, remember when he just needed to get his chair replaced? It took 18 months for him to get a new wheelchair, and that's basic. Imagine if he wanted something more. They'll tell people it's not a necessity. So like there was a guy who wanted this contraption that makes him able to stand up. It's a special chair that has something built in so that it like kind of puts you this way so you can access your cupboards. And they denied him, and they said that it wasn't necessary. So like this person who made the decision goes home and stands up in front of his cupboards every day, and I'm pretty sure they consider it's necessary to put things in the cupboards. But for this guy, no. So like our society disables people more because they won't provide accommodations and adaptations that would help them to integrate more, be more independent, have better lives, and you know, all that stuff. Wait, what's this? They raise it now so you can make 200? Not in Quebec. Tell me if that's in Quebec, because not as far as I know. It's 200 if you're on welfare, but not if you're on disability. It's 100. Because you get, oops, hitting the wrong thing again. Oh, so hard, these comments. In March, people on disability will be able to make $1,000 more if they work. Yes, that's because they're transferring them to the basic income program. So under basic income, you get some money, like instead of welfare, you get basic income federally, I guess. And then you're allowed to work on top of that. But it's weird because I have a pamphlet here somewhere. I showed it to you guys before. I don't know where it is now. And the amount that they were quoting was like $1,040 a month. Like, who can live off that? $250 a week? Oh, hi, Guinevere. I've been watching your videos. I hope you email me. I want to talk to you. Hi, Susie. So yeah, they're going to give them this like basic income, but it looked to me like the amount for basic income was less than disability. So then do they have to work on top of that? I'm not sure. Not everyone can do that, you know, not everyone can work. But there's so many things, like I'm Aaron's caregiver. He's very lucky that I'm his caregiver and that I can do what I do because he needs it. But not everyone is able to get that much care. The reason they gave it to him was because before, like, he was so unmanageable. I mean, you know, Aaron, like, sometimes you see him and he's all messy and stuff, and he's like, you know, he's spoking his wheel and he's like deep into it, and is like, you know, he'll be really into what he's doing, and he won't like take the time out to, let's just say, all that other stuff that I do. It's very time consuming. He's sick and tired of it. He doesn't have the bandwidth to take care of it all himself. And so basically, before I was around, his apartment was very dirty. His laundry wasn't done. He was dirty. He ended up having a lot of skin problems from that and other things. And he ended up being in the hospital every year, 6 to 9 months. And that cost him millions of dollars, millions. So and getting him to go over to the clinic to do bandages was a nightmare for them. And for him, it was horrible. It was dehumanizing for him. Like, he told me, one year it was winter and he was sick. He had a fever and he had a big sore and it was draining, like just pouring. And they made him go over there, and he was a couple minutes late and they just turned him around. I mean, this horrible, like, he needs a dressing change and they just turn him around, like teach him a lesson. You cannot teach someone with a traumatic brain injury a lesson. They're doing the best they can, you know? I mean, not with this kind of stuff, like, or self-organization. And he was sick too. And oh my God, it was so heartless. Ritalin? No. He was evaluated and they looked at all his stuff and they really gave him a proper evaluation and they were like, no, it's TBI. So there's some areas of the brain that are like damaged and there's some that are totally fine. That's why in some ways he's very, very, very smart. And there's other things where it's like he got hit on the head with a frying pan, but only in some parts, you know? I mean, no offense to Aaron, but basically it's kind of like some areas are damaged and some are really like above average. So that's why he like can talk about history and he knows all this stuff. And yet one of his problems is he gets distracted and he doesn't notice he's getting distracted. Like a person who has ADD, they'll get distracted, but they'll be like, oh, I was supposed to be doing that. Oh, I got distracted. And they'll catch it, whereas he won't catch it at all. So he needs somebody to help like keep him on track or whatever. I tried in the beginning to like give him all these memory aids and stuff, but it didn't do anything. It's like a memory problem, you know. So Ritalin doesn't fix memory problems. It's a totally different kind of thing. But yeah, they gave these students, they gave all these people all this CERB. I mean, it was so much money. And I'm still sore about the $1 billion for the vaccine passport. They gave that to each province for what? You know, think about it. 6 months of keeping people out of restaurants. Wasn't even working because some restaurants would let you in if you just showed them a picture of a dog on your phone. But they set all this up and they gave $1 billion. That $1 billion could have helped a lot of people, you know, with a lot of needs. And then they're just like, yeah, no, we don't have the money for that. We can just give you these pills. You can just off yourself. So it starts to really feel like I don't remember a time where I've ever felt like, yeah, disabled people have always been really undervalued. They're like an afterthought, but now it feels like they're really like, it's like they're treated like they don't have any value because you'll go in for help and they'll offer you suicide. So it wasn't the disabled people who wanted that. And these groups are fighting against it because now that's like the default, you know, they'll suggest it. I can't even believe. Can you imagine Aaron going in for some issue he has where he needs some help for his mobility and they're like, well, we can't get you this chair, but we can offer to have you euthanized? Like, that's crazy. Aaron is not, you know, he's not a stray dog. I mean, no offense to stray dogs, so I don't want to upset the vegans, but you know, he's not like some stray dog or something. Like, he's a human being. And it's just like, man, when you think your life is fine, you don't even think about stuff like disabled people. And then something will happen to you like just one day and it's like, poof, you're disabled. Oh, welcome to our world. I mean, I'm like accessory to his world because of my involvement. But people forget that disabled people are just people. They're people just like you and me and everybody. They're not like some other special kind of breed or Untermensch or something like that. They're just people, you know? But they don't get treated with the same consideration, that's for sure. So I think it's crazy. Like, honestly, I told you, I'm very disappointed with Trudeau. I mean, disappointed, like, that's putting it very mildly and politely. I mean, what is he doing here in Canada? It's so crazy. Now, the next thing that they're expanding it to is children, minors. I mean, it kind of looks like they're like, well, we got a lot of old and disabled people. Let's just, you know, get rid of them. Make them think it was their idea. But it's like they're backed into a corner. And I want to tell you a story. I met this woman, okay? She's probably not going to watch this video because I want to be honest about what happened with her. I met this woman. She's in a wheelchair and she's talking to Aaron, you know, I figure, what's this friend? And her chair was like all broken and beat up. And I was like, what? How come you can't get a new chair? I mean, I know we're in communist Canada and it takes a long time, but like, that doesn't make sense. How could she be going around with this thing? It's a motorized chair, but it was not fitted for her. And she has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and she doesn't even have braces on her legs. I know a little bit about it because I have like the mild version of that, like, or the mild end of the spectrum, hypermobility syndrome. But her knees like pop right out, like dislocate. She just moves. She can't even walk on them, and she doesn't even have any braces to hold her body in position. She's just sort of flopping around in this chair, and the chair is like all ripped up and broken and screwed up, and it's clearly not fitting her well. And I was like, how is this possible? And she's like, yeah, no, I can't get a new chair because of XYZ or whatever. So I was like, well, if you make a fundraiser, if you make a GoFundMe to fund your chair, I can promote it. I didn't offer to make the fundraiser for her, but I did offer to promote it because I would do that. And if you guys have fundraisers that you want me to promote, like if you guys have issues and you need funding for something, I'll do what I can. I mean, you know, maybe it'll help, right? So I offered that, and I didn't hear from her. I didn't see her, you know. Well, the next time I saw her, she said she put herself on the list for MAID. She had problems. Like she had housing that was inadequate. She needed to be moved somewhere. She needed a better chair, and she wanted a service dog. And she had no home care help. So she wanted to get on the list for MAID. I think actually that was the first time she was talking to me about this. And I was like, well, you know, maybe I make a fundraiser and I'll help you like get some exposure, and maybe that'll help, and you can get money for some of those things, and maybe it'll help and you'll be able to do those things, and then you won't want to apply for MAID, you know? Well, I went to Europe. I was so busy. But in the meantime, the problem was I had offered this to her, and then I noticed that she was a very toxic person. One of those people who are so bloody, aggressive, and hostile that you don't want to be anywhere near them. I mean, really. Like, really, really toxic. And at first, you know, I know that she always had these stories about how she was getting in conflicts with people everywhere she went. And it was like she couldn't even go to the grocery store without getting into some horrible fight with somebody. And it was like, and this happened everywhere she went. She went to the park. She got angry because some kids were chasing squirrels, and she screamed some horrible things at them. And the parent came along and was like, you know, don't talk to my kids like that. And then she screamed some really horrible things at them. And she was telling me these stories like, oh, look at these fuckers, you know, and I was like, oh my God, like, what about you, right? But I didn't say anything because I'm not the kind of person to tell people what to do. But I was like, geez, she sounds really unhinged, you know? So I was getting ready to go to Europe. I had a lot of stuff to do, a lot of prep for Aaron, like getting everything ready, getting replacements for me. And I really didn't have the time or energy to talk to her because she was just like, you know, one of those like black hole people that just, you know. And I was like, uh-oh, what have I gotten myself into? Oh my God, I shouldn't have been so nice in the first place. I finally messaged her when I was in Europe. I wish I could show you the text message. Oh, and she was always talking about her mother and blah, 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 and how awful her mother was. After a while, I started to feel bad for her mother. I was like, oh my God, imagine having a daughter like that. Well, boundaries, yeah, but for me, it's no problem. If someone has a fundraiser, I'm happy to share it. Why not, right? I have boundaries. I do. That's why I only offer to share the fundraiser, right? And I didn't realize how toxic she was. But I ran into her one more time right before I left, and I was like, geez, the girl's toxic, man. I didn't want to have anything to do with her. So I went to Europe, and I messaged her while I was there, and I was like, hey, listen, sorry I didn't message you before I left. I was really busy. I'm in Europe now, but if you still want help with the fundraiser, if you make the fundraiser, I can still promote it for you. And I was fully intending to do that. So it was like a couple weeks late, whatever. I originally wanted to interview her so she could share her story. And I even messaged Dan Dix about it. And I was like, she's not going to die. She just doesn't have the help she needs. She needs a chair. She needs a better apartment. She needs some personal assistance, and she can't get it. And she wants to put herself on MAID. And I messaged Dan Dix from Press for Truth. And I was like, this is a story here. Somebody should be talking about this. Because the reason I was getting involved in a way was it wasn't just for her. It was for everyone. It was for all Canadians, because this is a big deal. It's a big deal for our country, and it's a big deal for disabled Canadians, and it really matters. So I wanted to interview her. But then I realized she was toxic, so I didn't want to get in close to her, That is why. That's why originally, now that I think of it. So then I messaged her when I was in Europe, and she was like, you were supposed to make a fundraiser for me 3 weeks ago. And some, like really like toxic. She's telling me like, you promised me and you were supposed to get me money and all this stuff. And she's like, and now I put myself on the list for MAID, and I'm scheduled for my euthanasia, and I scheduled it on my mother's birthday. Ugh, that's how toxic she was. She scheduled to have herself euthanized on her mother's birthday. So I was just like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm so glad I didn't interview you and get involved with you, and I didn't give you my phone number. It's like, yeah, that bad, eh? That toxic. I mean, what kind of a toxic daughter would have herself euthanized on her mother's birthday just to get back at her? The last thing she does before she leaves this life, malignant narcissism. Oh my God, it was so malignant. Last thing she does before she, as she exits this world, is gives her mother the finger one last time. I mean, really. And I was thinking, man, girl, you're going straight to hell. Don't you know that? I didn't say anything, though. I was just like, not my circus, not my monkey. I'm not going to say anything. I did kind of ask her at one point. I was like, so do you believe in God? And she's like, there's no God. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the devil. And did she do it? Well, I haven't seen her around, but I'm not about to message her and find out, because I don't want anything to do with her. But I was thinking, if you're in that dark of a place here on earth, and you're that toxic and malignant, I'm pretty sure you're going to stay that way on the other side. But what can you do? What was I going to do? She was not open to it at all. I tried to broach the subject, and it was just like, the door was just absolutely closed. I don't want to hear about it. So I was like, well, okay. Wait, what did you say? I just saw a comment. Canada's already doing the euthanasia machine. Yes, they are. Absolutely. And I said earlier, my friend Joel, who I'd been documenting his saga years ago, before it was even actually being used, when he went in and they said he had chronic pancreatitis and it would eventually kill him, the first thing they did was offered him euthanasia. And they're like, well, we can put you on this list. Anyway, that woman was so malignant, whatever, that I felt on my heart it was not my place to get involved. It was not my place to help her. And I was just like, I'm so sorry that this is how your life has been. But it's not my problem, Oh no, I'm not the kind of person that's like, oh, I'm gonna go save everybody. No way. I don't get involved with toxic people. And I'm not a person who has a savior complex, who tries to go around saving people. It's not like that at all. I mean, there's been a couple times in my life where I was like overly kind and put up with too much, but in general, I'm not. I have really strong boundaries and I will say no. And I will, and when I notice that people are toxic or there's something isn't right, I just won't talk to them. I will very quietly just like exit. I don't like make a big deal and like try to, explain to them, because why would I care that they understand why if I don't want them in my life, right? So if somebody does something and they're super toxic and they're full of drama, I'm not gonna like get into it with them and you did this and you did that and don't you even know what, like, blah blah blah. Like, it's not even worth my effort. And it took a lot to learn to do that. It took a lot to learn to walk away and pray it out, just walk away. Eventually you do forget about it. Because sometimes like people are really toxic with you and you resent it and like carry it around for a while. But eventually I learned, like, just walk away, and just they're not meant to be in your life, and that's it. End of story. Because I don't think God wants people like that in my life. So when people like mistreat me or they overstep or whatever, I just decide that, or they ghost me, and I've been painfully ghosted by people before where it was like breaking my heart, and I had to accept that God was trying to tell me this person is not meant to be in your life right now. So anyway, with this woman, she applied for MAID. She's not gonna die from her illness. She could, thank you, Leslie. She could probably be helped a lot. She could have braces. She could have a better chair. She could have a better apartment. There's a lot of things she could do. In her case, though, I was wondering whether nobody gave her anything and nobody wanted to deal with her because she was freaking toxic. But that's just her. It doesn't change the fact that it's not right to just offer this to people. And I think she was really an exception, because most people aren't like that. And people that are asking for euthanasia who are just disabled, it's because I don't want to burden my family. There was a story. There was a guy who ended up disabled, like Aaron, and he wouldn't be able to work anymore. And he wanted euthanasia because he just didn't want to throw his family into bankruptcy. Something like that, because they would have had to, sell the house just to get the money, just to hire carers for him and like pay for all this stuff. Being disabled can be very expensive. I mean, unless you live like Aaron does, he doesn't have all that extra stuff. But if you look at the disability channels like Cole and Charisma and all that, you notice they have a lot of stuff, like a lot of help, a lot of equipment, good van with a ramp and a roll-in shower, like all marble. I'm laughing because I show Aaron that. I'd be like, look at these people. Look at the disability channels on YouTube. It's like with everything else, where it's not like your life or my life. It's like these influencers, even when they're disabled, like they're like in a marble palace. And so this is how I get in the shower with my chair. And it's like everything's all perfect. She's all perfect. Bathroom's all perfect. And then it's like we're looking at each other. We're like, how come our bathroom is like this? And it's a disaster. That's because we're poor, because we just don't have money, and the landlord wouldn't fix it. But anyway, that's a problem. Like, people don't have resources and they don't have help. And the government doesn't want to spend money on people. But how come they spend $1 billion per province on a vaccine passport? So that's like $10 billion. And they gave CERB to everybody, even people who didn't need it. For like, I mean, I'm not talking about like the early days where, well, there was no time to triage people, but like later, like the second summer, like why are the students sitting around on their butts on the CERB? Yeah, Kanga, yeah, they offered him that. He said no. He's clean now, by the way. Joel's been off those drugs for a long time. He's still a bit nuts though. I mean, you can see him in the chat. But yeah, he got off the drugs, but he's still sick. I don't know. He just found a way to cope with it, I guess. Yeah, he's been clean for, I mean, off what he was on, the painkillers and stuff, the opioids. Oh, thank you so much, Hawk. Thank you so much for the super chat. And can I tell you, you guys, I think that when people give me super chats, it helps my channel, because for some reason this month, okay, I got a lot of donations in the super chat. Thank you. And especially thank you, Guinevere. Guinevere Moonmist, you guys go check out her channel, who donated to me. But for some reason, I got more ad revenue. So it seemed like YouTube was like, oh, well, there's something going on over there. Like, let's send her more ads, you know. I lost subscribers, you guys, doing these Vlogmas videos. I lost another 130 subscribers. I mean, really. But it's like, whatever, you know. I don't care. It's not about the numbers. It's about the quality, not the quantity. That's what I think. And I have really great viewers, and you guys are really awesome. I'm very grateful to have you. But yeah, it seemed like it helped because usually like my ad revenue is super low. And it seems like because people were donating and maybe because there are lots of comments under my video, it seems like the algorithm liked that. Kentucky girl, you've been enjoying my Vlogmas videos, but you know what? I'm doing them for you. Like I'm doing them for you and people like you. My little community here, my truther friends. I got a lot of subs, but I mean, who knows who most of them are, you know? They probably don't watch most of my videos. I actually don't think that many people unsubbed. I think that I've had a bug in my channel for years because I have 4 channels, okay? Like there's the Joel channel, there's my old Sonia channel where I was like I chronicled my extended breastfeeding, like the natural weaning journey, because people are like, oh, he's never gonna get off your boobs. So I was like, okay, well, let's do a project. So I breastfed my son for 3 years and I chronicled it. And it was just a project, right? Like with Joel, it was a project. I completed it and then that's it. I don't post on there anymore. With the breastfeeding, it was a project. It was completed like, I don't know, 12 years ago. And then I have my Truth or Girls TV where I was just doing like makeup, hair videos, really. And I haven't uploaded on those channels. Like I uploaded one. Oh, thank you so much, Catch22. Wait, I didn't even get to see your username. Thank you for a super chat. Yeah, Catch22. Thank you for the thanks for the peanuts. I appreciate it. She called it peanuts. That's why. Yeah, so like I uploaded one video on my Sonia channel, I think last year. We're saying like, well, hey, you know, I was kind of surprised that attitudes towards breastfeeding hadn't changed more. And that's it. My hair channel, I hardly put anything on there. Those channels get subscribers. Like their curve goes like this. They're not monetized. They're not really active, but the subs come. It's kind of interesting. My Truther Girls channel, where I'm like super active and which is monetized, they keep like it seems like for every sub I get, other people get unsubbed. And I've had subscribers tell me that they were unsubbed without unsubbing. Oh, please hit the bell if you haven't already so that at least you know. And I've had people tell me the bell doesn't work. And I even contacted YouTube and I was like, there's something wrong. Because if you go on Social Blade and you put my channel name in it, my subscriber count has been like this for years. It's completely flat. Even my channels that are totally inactive, they still gain. They pick up a few subs here and there, you know? Like you pick up more subs than you lose. Unless you did something really big to piss people off, like that Mika Schaefer when she returned her adopted son. Yeah, shadow banned. Yeah, it's crazy. So I just sort of made peace with it. I was like, whatever. It doesn't matter. Because I do have really cool people in my audience and I really enjoy interacting with you. And so that's what matters. So that's what I wanted to talk about today was this business with the euthanasia though. Like disabled people, they don't want that as a solution. And it's crazy too because, you know, autism is considered a disability. So technically I could go and I could be like, yeah, I'm autistic and I can't get a decent job and I'm poor and I can't make friends. And that's not true though. And I have horrible sensory, which is true. You don't get notifications, Kanga? Did you hit the bell? That's why I tell people go on my Patreon. I know it's $1, but like then at least you can, you know, you get notified by me personally. Oh yes, unsubscribe. I know, but it happens so much. I mean, they unsubscribe like 2,000 people. So many people, almost 3,000. Whatever. Oh, let's hope Elon Musk buys it. And then I'll write to him and I'll be like, listen, man, you got to fix this. It's not fair. But anyway, like I'm autistic, so I'll let you know if somebody offers me freaking euthanasia. My son too, like he's autistic. We're all disabled, right? Oh, thanks, Kentucky girl. Yeah, just like hit me up with $1. And then the benefit of that also is that we're all there together. I want people to interact with each other, you know? Interact with each other. Go in the crazy chat room that I made. Just looking at it. Looking at your comments. Yeah, I want you guys to talk to each other. I want community here. I'm trying to like figure out a way. Oh, hey, Mama Chicken. You're late, but I'm happy that you made it. And I was just thinking, oh, I'm talking too much again. My parents used to tell me, you talk too much. And now I'm like, yeah, well, you know, I kind of made a career out of it, right? Good thing I talk too much. I'm just looking at your comments here. Yeah, it's messed up with this euthanasia business. I'm a libertarian. If you want to do it, I'm not going to stop you. I mean, I might, if you want to know if there was uh, other options, like I'm willing to be there for you, but I'm not. In the end, I'm just not someone who forces. I don't force my views on other people. Um, but this is crazy. Like this isn't just people who are like, oh please, I'm really suffering. I really want to die, and I want it to be like better and whatever. The doctors are offering it. Like people are going in for one thing and the doctors are offering them euthanasia. That's insane. I don't think this has ever happened in the world. A Discord account? No. Oh my gosh, Discord. Actually, that's not. My son is like an expert in Discord. But don't you have to use your own phone number? Like I like to still keep it kind of anonymous so we're all in there like sort of anonymously, so that you guys can feel comfortable. Also, you don't have like your email or your phone number. You just give it to whoever you want to give it to. I don't know how we hook up a Discord, but I could ask Gunnar about that. I guess it's possible. I don't know how it works. I don't know anything about that. But no, I made a chat room, but it's with Chatango, but I keep the name secret. So I only want you guys to go in there and not like the whole world, you know? And it's really just so you can communicate with each other. I'm trying to figure something out. Because I said, look, we could do it on Facebook. Kanga? Well, it's a chat room that I made, and I made a post about it on Patreon. I made a chat room just for you guys, so you can go in there. Like, let's say you want to talk to somebody else. Somebody left a comment on one of my posts. You can say, "Hey, can you meet me in the chat room?" Because you can create like a private chat, and you can talk to each other there. Well, it's in my Patreon. I'm only it's only for my patrons because I don't want to put it out there. Because then I don't know, we could get like what do you call it? Like chat bombing or whatever. People could come in there and put all kinds of horrible stuff. It's a private chat, but I'll post it again on Patreon. Okay, bye, fun ride. Oh my God, you used to volunteer on a suicide hotline? Yeah, isn't that crazy? There's a suicide hotline. There are like mental health, emergency rooms and stuff too. Like I said before, Bell Let's Talk. And then they offer maid to suicidal people. That seems crazy. Like you're helping people kill themselves. This isn't about like you have cancer and you're suffering. This is like, I think it's crazy. And I remember I watched this story once of there's this bridge in the States. I don't know if it's the Golden Gate Bridge or it's one of them. Maybe it was the Golden Gate. And people jump off this bridge a lot. YouTube's going to hate this video and they're going to put it on yellow, I'm sure, but it really doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes you got to talk about things. They don't like when you talk about things like this. This is a big deal, though. This is a really big deal. We need to talk about it. So there was this guy who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived. I think it was Golden Gate. I'm not 100% sure. But he, like, when you fall, when you hit the water, your body stops, but your organs keep falling. And it like rips them down and it rips arteries. So you get like internal bleeding. Anyway, it's a horrible way to go. And he said that as soon as he left the bridge, he knew it was a mistake. I really believe that there's probably a lot of people that when they say they're suicidal, they're not really, it's not that they really want to die. It's just that they're really suffering and they can't live with the pain. So that's crazy to like offer them maid. That's insane. Why don't they work more? They don't want to help people, obviously. And you know how much it costs for maid for a person? I looked it up. It was like $250 to $500 to kill somebody versus what maybe thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands. Yeah, you saw that too, Guinevere? I think you and I watch some of the same shows though, because I've been watching your vlogs and I'm like, she likes the same stuff I like. I think the same music too. Yeah. Yeah, he regretted it as soon as he left the bridge. But yeah, it's really not right. I guess they just figure it's cheap. I mean, it's so heartless. I don't even know how Trudeau can go around and show his face like when he does things like this. He's going to be known for that. And again, like they have it in Europe. They have a bungee jumping wouldn't be the same thing because there's you don't have that hard impact. There's like a doing. I wouldn't do it either, but it's not the same. Um, but yeah, like there's countries that have had euthanasia in Europe for a long time, but they don't recommend it as a first line treatment for everybody who comes in through the ER. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. Yeah, Guinevere, it's funny. I'm waiting for you to do some more of those makeup videos, especially like do the Courtney Love makeup tutorial when Vlogmas is over. That would be cool because you look so much like her. I guess you know that. Prettier though. I'm a big Courtney Love fan though, actually. Um, yeah, it's crazy what Canada's doing. It's like super offensive to disabled people. It's so weird too. It's like a couple of people took it to court, so now they like make it legal for everybody. I mean, I guess, once you start opening those cans of worms, it's really hard to know where to draw the line. It's like with everything else too, with like the gender issues too. It's like, well, okay, like yes, like 1% of people are like born non-binary or they have some kind of thing going on and they deserve to live, free and happy and respected like everyone else and it shouldn't be discriminated against. And it's gone from that to like an entire class of grade 1 kids saying that they're the opposite gender. It's gone from that. It's gone from trying to stand up for some exceptional people with unusual needs to like what's going on now with the schools where they're totally confusing the kids. I mean, there was literally a class where the teacher said every single kid in the class said that they were the opposite gender of what they were. So something's not right. Something's going on, you know. What is MAID? Babu. It's medical assistance in dying. Where are you from, Babu? You're from the States? You're not Canadian, I guess. Um, yeah, it's like we seem to be like crossing the line a lot for things. It was like in the past, the line was things like whether women should vote or have a say and, whether they should work. And it's gone from like this equality to something really crazy. Like it really seems like the last days of Babylon, something's really off here. End times or something. Babu is from Seinfeld? I thought like Babu means like uncle in Hindi or something. So every time I see Babu, I think, oh, here comes Babu. Please don't eat all that gulab jamun. Oh yeah, that's crazy too. Because like if you're on Facebook and you say something like, well, I would never say this, but if somebody's like, you should just kill yourself, then you get thrown in Facebook jail, or it's like it's really serious if you say something like that. But if the doctor says it, it's great. It's actual like he's practicing medicine. Oh hey, thank you for the super chat, Long Beaver. He says, hey Sonia, it's me, the survey guy who called you a decade ago. Oh my god, I remember you. Oh my god, awesome. No kidding. Oh my god, that's crazy. And I didn't forget about you. And I know I thought about you actually not that long ago. Oh my gosh. Wow. So this guy like calls me up to do like a telephone survey and then he figures out who I am and we end up having this whole conversation. That's so cool. He had my phone number. He called me for the survey. Amazing. Well, hey, it's nice to see you here, and thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Yeah, what are the odds? Well, I don't know. I live in Montreal, so I guess for a fellow Montrealer. Someone blew up the Georgia Guidestones. Yeah, I know that happened a while ago. I made a video about it. Because they like blew up the evidence. I mean, it's already documented though, so. Because I always do the telephone surveys because I used to work in a call center where I did phone surveys for like Volkswagen and stuff. And so when people call me, I usually do the phone surveys because they need to get their surveys done, you know? Somebody's got to do it. Wait, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, confusing them at a young age. Something's not right. Something's weird. Something's going on. And like I told you before, I'm a big libertarian. Like, seriously, if a guy wants to wear a dress and whatever, like, I don't care. I mean, whatever, right? I'm not a big conformist, you know, so like, I don't mind nonconformity. It's fine. I don't really care what people wear. I've worn some weird things myself in my life. But these are, you know, adults want to make decisions and live how they want and whatever. It's fine. I don't care. But you know, when you start like here's the thing, okay? Do you guys remember the drug education program? It was called DARE. Yeah, you disagree with their decisions, but don't shut them. It's their business, you know. I don't like people telling me what to do. I absolutely hate it. So I don't tell other people what to do because I try to do unto others, right? And I'll tell you, you know what, you guys, actually, I have a couple of neighbors that are they're both trans, and the guy used to be a girl, and the girl used to be a guy, and they're just a great couple. They're so cute. I mean, seriously, they're so happy together. You know, when you see people and they're just a happy couple, and they're just like a cute couple, and they love each other, and it's like I'm happy for them that they have each other because you know why not, right? And I mean, people might judge me and Aaron, like you can judge anybody. So they switch genders, but they're in a I guess you call it a heterosexual couple, just in spite of it. So why would I judge them? They seem like nice people. They've always been nice. So I don't have a problem with them. Um, wait, I was gonna tell you something and I was like all excited about it, and then I forgot instantly. Oh my god, what was I gonna tell you? Where was I going with it? Oh wait. Oh yes, the DARE program. Okay. So this is what I want to tell you. Okay. Yeah, the DARE drug abuse resistance education. You really? Okay, well, congrats on your clean time. But apparently, okay, when they brought drug education into the schools, and this was like, remember Nancy Reagan with the Just Say No, and they started talking about drugs all the time. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, I was talking about DARE. It started with Nancy Reagan and the Just Say No, and like, okay, it's crazy because apparently CIA was like bringing cocaine into the ghettos in New York and leaving guns on the corner and stuff. But they were also talking about, you know, just say no. Like, we're gonna put the coke, but just don't use it. I mean, it was a hypocrisy. It was crazy. They had like court cases about it. It was on Netflix and everything, so it's not like it's not a big secret anymore. But there was all this corrupt stuff that was going on. But they were doing these programs in schools, and they'd come in, and it was like drug education programs. And what happened though was eventually it came to light though that Dare Bear, oh my god, it came to light though that the more you talk to kids about drugs, the more curious they actually become about it. I wonder how that works. Like, kids are, I wouldn't say they're like a blank slate, but they are kind of like sponges, right? And so whatever you put in there is they absorb it, and you're putting it into their consciousness, and they're absorbing all this stuff. So when they started, uh-oh, battery power. Okay, hold on. When they started talking to the kids about drugs, they ended up, wait, what's going on here? They just ended up doing drugs. They did more drugs because you put it on their radar. And when they talk to kids about eating disorders, they have this whole thing like eating disorder awareness campaign. Look, Dare taught me about LSD, so I had to try it, says Jody. Well, I was that kind of kid too. And I lived, back in the days before the internet, and I used to get very bored, and I was a bit of a bookworm. So I used to go to the library a lot, and I used to go to the bookstore, and I would read all the bad books, and I read all the drug books, all the sex books, all the witchcraft books too, and all the sordid story books, and all it did was like pique my curiosity. But yeah, apparently when you do drug education with kids, it has the opposite effect. Like if they don't know anything about it, they're maybe more likely to be more careful, or like they wouldn't want to get involved, right? When you tell all the kids about it, they're all curious and they're going to start doing it. So the eating disorders awareness also, you start filling their minds with talk about anorexia and bulimia and all this kind of stuff, and how they're starving themselves. And then they start having these problems. It was the same thing with the anti-bullying programs. They brought in anti-bullying programs, and actually it was like they were teaching them how to bully kids. They're like, oh, and make sure you don't bully your classmates by putting embarrassing pictures of them on the internet. And then they're all like, oh, that's a great idea. So it was kind of like, it always backfires. So also like with the gender stuff, I mean, I can understand that they want people to not discriminate and not, but it probably wasn't really on their radar. It didn't even really come up. And then because there's so much focus on it, the kids start to get like, maybe I'm not that, maybe I'm a different gender. And they start, so I feel like it's similar to what happened with Dare and the eating disorders and the bullying stuff. It created more of it. So with the gender stuff, how do you get an entire class of grade 1 kids saying that they're the opposite gender? Something happened there. So psychological. So, sorry, we had a troll in the chat. That's what my admins were for, because it's like super distracting. I have like, all these wonderful people and then one troll. It's like super distracting. So, yeah, I feel like it's because they keep talking about it, And, people do have like, no woman is 100% going to fit female stereotype. I certainly don't, especially when I was younger. No male is going to fit male stereotype 100%. Those are stereotypes, and those are social roles. We don't fit them 100%. We don't look like the ideal woman or the ideal man, right? There are some men that are very petite. Usually men are bigger. Some men are smaller. They're still men. Women usually have a sort of a triangular jaw. Not all women have it. Look, I don't have it. I'm still a woman. So just because we don't fit, and we're a bit different because we're each unique, because we're each made by God, and we're all each made in a different way. So we don't fit all the gender roles and stereotypes and preferences. That doesn't mean that we're not that gender. But if you start exposing kids to that, and they're like, well, you like cars? Cars are kind of a boy thing. Well, it's weird too, because actually when Gunnar was little, I noticed they started having this whole thing with gender neutral toys, like that there was no more like girls get dolls and boys get cars. It was supposed to be like everybody plays with the same stuff. Remember that? That was like 15 years ago, or 12, 13 years ago. I remember noticing that. And it was like nobody ever said the girls couldn't play with cars to begin with, or the boys couldn't play with dolls. They just didn't do it. And when we were raising our kids, we noticed that the girls really gravitated towards different stuff than the boys, but not always. There was a little bit of overlap, but generally girls were more interested in stereotypically girl things. Not all the time though, but that doesn't mean that they're not girls. I mean, my nieces, for example, one of them is a real girly girl. She's the one I call Little Sonia. Not that I was such a girly girl, but there's a lot of overlap in our interests. Like we like arts and crafts. We were like pretty things. I used to organize stuff a lot when I was little and make lists, and she's like that. She's the girly girl, and her sister is a tomboy. But that doesn't mean she's not a girl, you know? But if you start making kids question their identity at such a basic level, you could get some kids that, might think that it's more. Because I think that people with real gender dysphoria, you don't have to tell them. They know from very early on. Those kids that are born that way, and I don't know what it is, it's like something with the brain or whatever. The ones that are born that way, they're going to tell you, they're going to be 2 or 3 years old, and they're going to be like, they're just going to tell you, like, I'm a girl or whatever. And the parents are usually baffled, and they're like, oh, that's so cute. He thinks he's a girl. You don't have to tell them. They know. So I feel like it's not being handled right at all. It's just confusing a lot of people. Yeah. And it's rare, you know, it's rare that somebody is really like from a young age, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. That's rare. It happens, but it's rare. But you get lots of tomboys and tomgirls or whatever. Wait, tomboys and I don't know what the girl. In French, they call it fille manquée and garçon manqué. It's like a missed boy or a missed girl. And usually it's just a stage. But these days, man, it's crazy because you think we're moving away from stereotypes, but we're actually really reinforcing them. Because now, like when I was growing up, I was getting the message that if I wasn't skinny and I didn't look a certain way, that I wasn't good enough as a woman. Now you're getting an even more message like, well, maybe you're not a woman at all. If you don't fit these stereotypes and you don't look a certain way and you don't talk a certain way and sit a certain way and walk a certain way and like certain things, maybe you're not really a woman at all. That's, to me, it's just like exaggeration of forcing people into stereotypes that we always had. We always had this problem. But yeah, that's what I think. It's like the more they talk about it with them, the more of them are going to start to think, yeah, maybe, because that's what happened with the drugs and with everything else that they talked to them about. You see what I mean, Kentucky girl? Like as women, we're always subjected to these very high standards of how we're supposed to look and everything. Yeah, Amelia Earhart, they would have said, oh, well, maybe she's trans. No, maybe women can really just fly planes and be like that. Not all women are frilly, you know? Not all women are like stereotypical women. We can be very different. It's not the same thing as being a man. Well, Dylan Mulvaney, I was like, what the heck is this? And why is he at the White House? And why is he handing out tampons? Like, that's crazy. I don't carry I've had menopause, right? So I don't need tampons. You think I carry tampons in my purse in case other people need them? That's so weird. Oh, anyone need one of these? They'd be like, who's this weird old lady? Can you imagine if I went to a women's bathroom and I was like, well, I brought some extras in case any of your girls need some of these. They think I'd lost my damn mind. And it's really insulting to women that we need men to help us manage our menstrual cycle. Isn't that like super like mansplaining? Oh, well, I got this here for you. Dépannage in case you didn't take care of business yourself. That's crazy. I mean, really. Usually we manage just fine because we've been doing it, menstruating, since we were about 11 or 12 years old. So by the time we're in our 20s, we're kind of experts. It's only new to Dylan Mulvaney because he wasn't paying attention to it before, or she, or whatever. Yeah, it's like insulting to women. How does this person come along and start talking about menstruation? Like, oh my gosh. We don't talk about, we don't help men manage. Oh, let me help you with that ball chafing. Here, let me give you a few tips. We don't do that, right? I don't know what kind of problems men have, but imagine, we don't do that. Yeah, it's like, anyway, it's just him. But I was looking at his videos and it's kind of funny. He's very charismatic. He's a professional actor and a singer and entertainer. So, see, this is why people like that get all the attention. But they don't represent trans people in general, I don't think. Because I know some trans people in real life and they're not like that. They're just normal people. You'd be surprised, actually. Some of them, they're very just low key, regular people. They're just trans. You know, it's just a thing for them. But they don't get any attention because they're just kind of boring, regular people. So the ones like Dylan Mulvaney get all the attention. So then people are like, well, that's what trans people are like. But like my neighbors that are both trans, they're not like that. The girl who used to be a guy, is very low key, very polite. You know, they don't get any attention because they're just normal, boring people, basically. And so then Dylan Mulvaney goes to the White House. I was just kind of like, holy crap. But I was looking at it and he was explaining why it was days of girlhood because he had never lived through a girlhood. So he wanted to live it. So he did it later, you know. And that's why he called it that. But it was still, it was like full of stereotypes though. Yeah, it seemed like he was trolling all. And then I bought things that I couldn't afford and then I cried. And I was like, I almost never cry. Like almost never. I don't even remember the last time I cried. I cry very rarely. I was always like that. Very, very, very rarely. And with shopping, I'm like extremely disciplined. I buy almost nothing. Dylan, you paying attention? Maybe I'm a man. Because I don't shop. I shop like a guy though, right? Like if I find something I like, I'll go out buy like 5 or 6, and then I won't go to the store ever like for like a long time until things fall apart. Did they? Oh, gay marriage has been legal in Canada for a long time. But I seriously, I don't know why he's just like picked all the stereotypes about women and like just it's just ran with it, you know. And that's why I made that video about first day as a real girl, because being a female, being a girl, is really not just about like looking pretty and being all full of fluff, you know. It's like fluff in the brain. It's really not like that. Like look at my life. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of taking care of other people. And not just me because I'm a caregiver, but even just like regular moms, you know, do a lot of hard work taking care of their kids. Usually they're not always, but usually the mom's more hands-on. Statistically, when the parents get old and need care, it's usually the females that do it. That's still a role that's expected of us, you know. And he didn't get into that at all. I'd like to see Dylan Mulvaney should do like a little follow-up about his days of girlhood where he has to do all the housework. Oh, the man bra in Seinfeld. Yeah, I remember that. The bro. I remember he's like, yeah, you're carrying a lot of weight up here. The bro. That was pretty funny. But yeah, things have gotten really nuts. It's like like I was saying, you know, we're like crossing these lines. Um, if he's a troll, what's he doing at the White House? Yeah, we're crossing. We're like, it's just like everything's gotten blurred. I think that, like I said before, it's messing with people's heads in the sense that it's messing with your concept of yourself at the most basic level. You know, if everybody starts questioning, like, oh, am I really female? Because, like, trust me, I have a lot of male traits. Like, I mean, I have a lot of female traits. See me, I'm always like, I do like the girly things, right? And you guys know I have a lot of girly interests as well. But there's one area, well, besides the shopping, I shop like a guy, but also in relationships, I'm a lot like a dude. Like I keep it really simple. There's no drama. I don't when I read or hear about how women are in relationships, I don't relate to it at all. You know, it doesn't make me a guy. It just makes me a lot easier to be in a relationship with, you know? But seriously, what if I was young and like they were saying all this? I'd be like, well, because I'm more left brained, you know? I'd be like, oh my God, yeah. So they just confuse you, you know? There are many different ways to be a man, many different ways to be a woman. And I don't know why they're telling they're just enforcing all these stereotypes and these poor kids are getting confused, you know? Kids that would have never thought of this if it hadn't been put in their head. The Matrix need more women like that, women who are like guys in a relationship. Oh, it's like really simple. Like I don't need a lot of attention. I don't need a lot of like affirmation and validation, you know? Yeah, I'm like pretty low maintenance. Well, it's been really fun talking to you guys. Oh, Gunnar is out of school this week, by the way. perfect yin and yang are balance of masculine and feminine. Um, it, okay, what? Whoops, I was reading Guinevere's comment. We have to have the perfect yin and yang balance of masculine and feminine ways to be a healthy woman, if that makes sense. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you had only the stereotypical feminine traits, you'd be all the way on one side, and then you'd maybe be like borderline or something, because that's like an extreme, like extreme forms of like all the most like sort of stereotypically female traits would be like way over here, you know? That wouldn't be normal. Like, yeah, we all have balance, like the yin and the yang. There's a little bit of both, right? Okay, good night, Lady Liberty. Vicky, you found out what that smell was? What smell? You'll have to tell me. I don't remember. Oh, the hoarder neighbors. Oh, the hazmat people are coming. Interesting. I'd kind of like to be one of those people that cleans up hoarder apartments or like crime scene cleanup. I don't think my back could take it though, but I like that kind of stuff. Well, anyhow, oh, yeah, Guinevere, like you just, that's another thing. Like Guinevere says, yeah, you don't want to be like a pushover, See, that's another thing. Like assertiveness is accepted as a male trait, and women, when they're assertive, they're called like, oh, she's a bitch or she's bossy, right? So we still have all the same stereotypes. You can be a woman and be assertive. It doesn't make you less of a woman. But it's really weird because those stereotypes are very, very entrenched. And I feel like all this gender stuff is actually reinforcing that. And that must be really hard for the kids. My son, like, he doesn't care. And he's always been gender nonconformist, basically. I mean, not like he's not a male. He's 100% male. But in the way he dresses, I mean, you guys know he had his long hair this entire time. He constantly got misgendered. He didn't care. But when it comes to this kind of stuff at school, he didn't even want to sit in for the lecture. He was just like, oh, I don't want to go. He just didn't even go that day. But yeah, he's out of school this week because he's exempt from exams. And he's just going to do his like test next week. And so he's off school a lot. So that's why I can be up late a bit tonight, because we don't have to go to bed so early. But yeah, Gunnar with his pretty face and his long hair. And especially when he was younger and he was chubby, he'd get taken for a girl like all the time, but it just didn't bother him. Even now, sometimes I'm waiting for the day where it stops happening. I think, come on, at this point, it looks like, I mean, this one time, I'll tell you one last little thing and then I'm gonna go. But this one time I was downtown with him and we were standing in front of this store, and this guy came up and he's like, hey, you ladies know where there's a good bar around here or something like that? And I was like, ladies? I was like, I'm an old lady and this is my teenage son. Like, what are you talking about? Some drunk guy like tried to like invite us out. I'm like, I'm old enough to be your mom. This is a boy. We're not going drinking with you. Funny, eh? It was kind of, yeah, it was hilarious. Gunner's a pretty boy, like his dad. He's gonna be a good looking guy. Okay, it's great seeing you guys. Thank you so much for joining me in the chat. Thank you again, those of you who gave me super chats. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope it made sense. Thanks so much. And I will have a video for you tomorrow. And that's it. I guess thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.